I was born in the Bay Area, to broke parents that had to hustle every day to keep bills paid and mouths fed. I'd never known any other way than just enough for tomorrow, but we were surviving. And to continue to survive, we'd have to move from violence, from cages, from fear that each day could be the last. So we did, and we never stopped. My parents split, but they never planted roots. Consequently, I'd be bouncing around rootless until I landed in the Central Valley.
The Central Valley is home to many peoples and cultures. At the beginning of time, it was home to many native tribes, one of them being my tribe, the Tachi Yokut Indians. We lived in peace and tranquility. We were hunters and gatherers. We respected Mother Earth and her offerings. But as time had passed, we were hunted and expelled from our land. When miners and farmers settled in our area, our tribe was forcibly relocated to Kalinga, in modern-day Fresno County.
The cycle only makes the rich guys richer, and we stay in the same place, only working more and more hours for the same minimum wage. I think many people in the Central Valley are living this reality, and it doesn't sit well with me. But I'm only 14. I can't vote. My parents can't vote. My siblings can't even vote. What can I do?
You're never too young to start making a change and letting people hear your voice and thoughts, because the youth always inherit and innovate the revolution.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Meche, pronouns she, they. Welcome to the Saving Native Language Through Cultural Stories and Basket Weaving. It's really nice to have y'all here. So the preview we just watched is a video created by the fellows of the ArteVism Fellowship, and I am one of those fellows. Hello. And so this video that will be premiering on January 25th concentrates on showing that the Central Valley has rich roots, history, but also showing what it means to be displaced on stolen land. Specifically, the effects of colonialism, modernity, capitalism that translates to limitation in opportunity and prosperity, that are solely based on Western standards and are dehumanizing to oneself and community. It's difficult to imagine a different reality due to the normalization of abuse, exploitation, and injustice. And due to this, our values are inherently based on an abolitionist point of view that talks about intersections of colonization, capitalism, and white supremacy in relation to the Central Valley. So yeah, welcome. Before we begin, I want to first make sure we acknowledge the land that we're occupying, and also honoring Native ancestors and communities that are here in the Central Valley in which we're all representing. So currently, again, I'm Meche, pronouns she, they. I'm currently living in occupied Yokut land. And I encourage everyone to use the link in which I'm putting in the chat right now to see what land you're living on, and please put it in the chat. And I'll hand it over to Cecilia.
Hey everyone, nice for everyone to be joining on today's webinar. I'm so glad everyone's here, and we can welcome Carmen Moreno today as our webinar speaker. To start off, let me give a little introduction of her. Carmen Moreno lives in the foothills of Orosi, California. She is from the Tachi and Wuckchumni Yokut tribes that are located here in the Central Valley. She's a wife and mother of 3 daughters and 1 son. She's a daughter of a loved and well-respected elder of a late Luana Oswick, Aicho Hasso. Her mother was full-blooded Native American from the Tachi and Wuckchumni tribe, who was a basket weaver and a Tachi language teacher. She has installed her in her family the importance of native culture, ways, language, and basketry. She has been involved over the last 20 years within her culture, her language preservation. Sorry. She has always been an educator. She wants to keep her culture and her ways, teaching and preserving the Tachi language and Koyo basketry. She keeps active with that in her community and with her family. She has been involved over the years with other groups such as Advocates for the Indigenous California Language Survival, known as ICLES, as well as California Indian Basketry Association, which is SIBA, which is our Native American Basketry Association, as well as other local community groups and, different places within the Central Valley. But Carmen has gone all over California teaching her basketry and her language. Within the last couple of years, she has been compassionate for restoring and preserving her culture and her language. Carmen has a sense of responsibility to her Yokut peoples to show and explain the role of their culture and language in ways. She also likes to honor her mother's legacy, by continuing passing this knowledge on to her family and anyone who would like to learn. That is just a little bit of our speaker, Carmen Moreno, who's going to be speaking in just a few moments. But also we have today some of our fellows who's been a part of this program with Pan Valley. Starting off with myself. I'm Cecilia. I am a Tachi, Yokut, and Wuckchumni educator. I've been doing the language for many years, just like my mother, Carmen Moreno. Also, we have in here Meche, she spoke a little bit earlier. She's a dope community member who was also connecting from Merced County, as well as me. I'm in Merced County, but also from Tulare County. You have Maria, who will be there later on talking. She is an aspiring animator who is connecting from Fresno County. And then our last fellow we have is Ariana, who's a California educator who's connecting from Tulare County. So this is just a little bit of the fellows, and we've been working on this project, and also with the help of Carmen Moreno, she can do the speaking to kind of connect everything. But so from right now, we're going to go ahead and invite Carmen Moreno to come on if she can, to talk a little bit about what is she doing with her program and her language.
Yatro Yokuts, Mr. Sanchez, Healy, Inyana Nem Nohich, Magani Nem Carmen Moreno, Na Inyana, Na Tachi, Na Wuckchumni, Ama Ipinich, Na Ta'oganjan, Ma Hohahi, Arosi. I live at the foothills. Hello, everybody. My name is Carmen Moreno. My Indian name is Nahoich. I am Tachi Wuckchumni. I'm glad to be here with all of you today. Thank you for your time. Thank you to ArteVism for inviting me. I want to first say a little opening prayer. This is something I'm accustomed to or I've been taught. I'm going to say a quick little prayer before we get started, only because that's the way I've been raised. Takati, Uwo, Jipni, Omshasenches, Hili, Hachi, Akil, Dawson Yadro Yokuts, Abadinyana Yokuts. Keep everybody safe and healthy. So my name is Carmen Moreno. I am the daughter of the late Lawana Aichel Uswick Hostel. My mother was full-blooded Wuckchumni Tachi. She was also a basket weaver, but she also raised me and my brother to be very respectful, very aware of our culture, and her goal later in life was to make sure that whatever we learned from her, we were able to pass on to our family, but also to share the history and the just everything that our tribes are doing. And so with that, Tachi is always been close to heart, and so is Wuckchumni. And I want to acknowledge the elders that had taken the time to teach the people in the community. It's not easy, but they have a certain passion and a certain goal to pass on tradition, and also to have that conversation that they do not have anymore. And there was a time that I felt we spoke Tachi in the house all the time. And then there was a time that when my grandmother, my Kimitsi, had passed away, I noticed that the language went away for a little bit. And I think at some point my mom started healing, and when she did, she came full force back. And I noticed it was more when I started having my children. And it's almost like if we had, and we were always on the go. If everybody knows this, our family, it was always busy, never home. Our goal was to share our knowledge, our traditions with everybody. But I want to go back to respect. That was the main key. Not only that, I had seen my mom, I would go with her and my brother, we would go and gather, clover, we would go gather mint, peppermint, we'd gather medicinal stuff that they used as they grew up, because they didn't have a Walmart or, a 24-hour store. They had to use their resources. And mom would say that the land was plenty. The uncles would go fishing, the uncles would go hunting, and it was basically a family connection. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. When I was younger, it was very difficult growing up in a small town, and unfortunately, I was one of few in school that were Native. I did not get to grow up on the reservation, so I was very aware of my family. And Yokut actually means people, and so when they say Tachi Yokut, it's referring to this tribe people. So that's why a lot of people think in general Yokut is a tribe. It's actually meaning people, meaning these groups of people that grew, was in a surrounding lake. We had a very huge lake, Tulare Lake. So they had bountiful resources of what they needed. And trading was something that, people would actually, go to the coast or come from the coast to us. And, and there was different ways that they bartered and, and traded. And mom actually kind of still remembered a little bit of it, and she shared that with us. But back in, I want to say back in 1980, I came home, I was a little frustrated, and my mom was like, what's going on? And there's certain things you kind of don't talk about, but I let her know what was going on. And she said, you know what? I think it's time for me to do the same I did for your brother. And I said, what's that? She's all, well, we're gonna go to your school. Let's go, we're gonna go to your school. Went, talked to the teacher, and she told the teacher that she wanted to do a presentation, and she was familiar and she had done it before. So in the 80s, mom did this on her own. At that time, there was little individual groups here and there, but mom did that on her own time, and she gathered up all the baskets. I remember it. She pulled out all the shawls, put it in the front of the class. She spoke in the language. She introduced, she explained who we are, who our tribes are. And the biggest thing that stayed with me that day was that she explained that the stuff that is in our history books is not necessarily all true. And that the reason she was there that day is because she wanted to share her knowledge of what was true from her side, her witnessing of what she grew up. And I never thought in my mind that I would ever do that. I thought my mother was brave. And it made me very proud that day to say, that's my mom. That's my culture. That's my language. You know, my mom was set in her ways, but there was a reason being of that. And we were taught rules, and we were taught what to do and not to do, when to do it, not to do it, and why we do things and what for. And it was always, you know, say your prayers first, you know, give thanks to Tripney for what we have and what we don't have, because maybe there's a reason why we don't have it at that time. So as I started having my family, one of her cousins had reached out to her and said, you know, it's time, you know, why don't we start doing basketry stuff? Why don't you come, you know? And just like a little fire, it started and it went. And we went straight for like a good, and we're still doing it. It hasn't stopped. She's the one that put that light on that candle and let it go. But what she did was, she was my babysitter. Normally I had to do the you know, the other, I call it, we walk two lives. You know, we have our native side, and then we have our, you know, our life where we have to work, bills, family, and all that. And I was very blessed that my mother, you know, the days that I worked, she would take the kids along and pile in her little Ford truck, and take my girls to be with my family. And I'm very thankful to, you know, all my family, you know, from the Santa Rosa Rancheria, Tachi tribe, my Wuckchumni family. My mom was very loving, very caring, and very concerned. And so they would travel, and it was cute because they would all pile in the truck, and they were so small, and she would take this little lunchbox and have food for them. And for us, it's always just sandwich meat. But my girls got to see, and they were able to learn how to gather for their basketry, you know, how to give thanks. And much thanks that to our Gogash Aunt Marie and my Tashtani cousin Jennifer. And I'm really thankful for the other part of my family, because my grandfather was Felix Aichau, and his mother was a famous basket weaver, Maggie Aichau. And it makes me very proud to say that we're blood. I'm a little embarrassed because my skills are not as beautiful as her work. She had beautiful work, but at some point that once we did the basketry, all of a sudden we were doing language on our own, but then there was a program that came across, and it was shared with us, and it was the advocates, Eichels, and they kind of like gave us that support and the resources. And before we knew it, we started working on the language. My mother made it a goal to go and share, to go to Limor, Tachi, at the Elder Center, and share the language to anyone that would listen. And I had asked her, Mom, is there certain people we teach or we don't teach? She said, you just need to share it with anybody, because at this point, we need anybody. And that's, if they come to you, that is a sense of responsibility. And with that, Eichels had give us the support system, the tools that we needed, the resources, but also it was only like master and the apprentice. But my family, because we were small, but we were always together, I did a family immersion. And the way I did that was I taught my children while they were home, because if I didn't live with my mom, so I had to use my little ones. And, you know, and it was very cute. You know, we had Post-its, papers all over the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room. And okay, once you walk through the door, we're not talking English, we're going to talk Tachi. And then I noticed that my mom started bringing out the songs. And songs is very important. It's not only just music to your ears, it's healing, it's prayer, it's a part of us. And I think that because my mother learned the songs from Leon Manuel, and very important, and it wasn't just about learning the songs. It's like, okay, we're gonna go get we're gonna make the clapstick, and we we didn't have instruments. We had to make our instruments. So this is a clapstick, and this is our instrument. It's part of our prayer and our healing. And mom had told my brother, get the kids in the car. We're gonna go make some clapsticks. And before I came home from work, they were all singing in the living room. It felt so good to walk in after a long days of work and to hear it, because I hadn't heard it since I was young. And like I said, I think there was a time, and it's a part of the morning. My mom kind of like, we usually do it for just a set time, but I always noticed we went longer, because I think that's how much she felt it in her heart. And so with that, we as we started going to these trainings and starting being more familiar, talking to more people, then we would ask, can you come please do a presentation, and before we knew it, we were doing presentations on basketry, gathering. And when we did it, we taught the people, but we also always had our board. And on that board had the pictures of us gathering, it had us cleaning, and then a finished product. But what my mom would always say, even when she was very sick at the end, she's like, you need to make sure you explain to them on that board before they sit down. In other words, she wanted them to understand that it's a process. It's not like you can go to the Walmart and buy a basket. It starts from being thankful, giving blessings, doing your offerings and saying thank you, Mother Earth, thank you for giving me this, and I offer my offering, and and help me, in a good way, to gather, weave, clean, because it's a true belief. For us on our side, my mom would always say, you need to be in good spirits as you're weaving that basket. If you're mad, put that thing away, because you're weaving that negativity in that basket, and you don't want that. The other thing that comes up is that my mother explained to us, when we lose our loved ones, we had to do our mourning, and every tribe's different, cutting our hair, not doing certain things, and putting away our projects like our basketry. And I'm going to share something with you really quick that is very dear to my heart. It goes with us everywhere, because even though my mother's not physically here with me anymore, I feel her spiritually. And the way I feel it is that we have to be positive, because she was always happy. She had the most beautiful smile. And that's what makes me go, because I not only have my daughters, but I have an 11-year-old son, and he's watching me. And I am very proud that he could catch me off when I'm busy doing something. He'll just start speaking to me in the language, and it makes me feel good. But I'm going to go back to some of our basketry stuff that that I'm talking about. There's certain times of the year you do it. You only get what you need. You don't get more than what you need, because that's not good. You only weave in the day, and you weave with good positive intentions. This is like a little basket. We have white root, deer grass, and redbud. So these are gathered in certain places, certain times of the year. But what I want to share is, I'm going to try to back up a little bit, because this is kind of big. We have my mother's gambling tray. And it has like a little lip on the top. And then that's the bottom. And so I'm gonna see if I can share this with you. So what goes with this is the dices, and I'll see if Cecilia can help me. She's gonna show you the dices of what they look like. And the people back in the day, they would play all night long, and they would bring a stash, or I would say a pile. And the goal was, in that pile, it could be blankets, it could be food or whatever, and they would play all night long. And once the game was over, could be 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the morning, whoever was the winner would take the winnings. But what I wanted to mention about the gambling tray is that you're going to notice there's different colors on here. So she used to call this her sunrise, her sunshine. But this is darker than this red bud right here, this coloring. And the reason behind that is because Mom was really going away at the gambling tray. She lost her notebook in the middle of it. She lost her dad. So she put it away for a whole year. And so that's why it's different colors. But I didn't know she had it in her to finish it before we attended this California Indian Basketry Association gathering. It's always in June. So we work on a project through the whole year, and June is where we get to show off what we finished. She finished it in 2 weeks. Amazed me because I didn't know how she was gonna do it. I said, "You think you do it?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm in a better place now," and she got it done. And so to me, it shows that her strength, that she overcame her loss. But at the same time, I had never seen her so happy in a long time, because the ones that had to help her go gather materials was my kids, my daughters, Cecilia, Delia, Angelina. And I think that's what brought comfort. And I think with her teachings and her going to the schools, she did my presentations from kindergarten all the way to high school. And then it was our turn. I did the presentations for my kids in school. And then before we knew it, we're in the community. And then I realized that it's, even though my mother has passed, it's a sense of responsibility now. That with all her hard work, and through us, and through my brother, Gregory Ignacio Coyo, if anybody reaches out to us, we're gonna help them in any way, because that's where our No'om had raised us, or our mother raised us to be in a good, positive way. Again, it's not what's all in the history books. This is why it's near and dear to my heart, because I feel like it's a new generation. And these young Native people are facing difficulties that they have never had, that we didn't have to face. So stereotypes when my mom's age was very difficult, and my mother was very clear about certain things. You know, people always think this of certain Iñanas, Indians, and we need to show them different. And I understand what she means now, is because they stereotype back then, stereotype now. And I put it in Tripney's hands that he will help the youth and find that fire to bring it back, learn the language, learn the culture. It's very difficult. Everybody's got school, work, and then now with the pandemic, it's even, but I think that is a part of why we need to do it. Make time for it. Respect the elders that are giving you their time. Is because I feel like the younger generation needs also healing. There's a lot of issues going on that they're facing, and they have inner situations. And I think even if they have just a little bit of their culture, it will help them heal and hopefully make them strong into whatever their strengths are. So I hope I shared some information. I do want to thank everybody that's always provided for us resources. We've been up to the national park doing presentations on hoop game, the hoop and pole game, basketry. We've made it all the way up north. Oakland, I had the pleasure of doing basketry demonstration coil medallion at the Mills College. And I feel like it's a sense of responsibility, and it's in respect to my mother for all the hard work that she's done, and also that I see it. I see the tribes really trying to language preservation and cultural, and it's great, but also we have a sense of responsibility to also our land, and being, mindful. And I hope I shared something with you today. And the other thing that I keep in my mind, and I used to share with my mom, I said, you know what, Mom? From a tribe that was so huge, and when the settlers came in and they did bad, what had happened, I said, we were very fortunate because out of a huge tribe, it dwindled down to very little. And that makes me feel very proud because that means that our relative made it through that and was able to come through. And that's how we were able to be here. So I also feel like it's a sense of respect to our relatives that survived. And so I have much respect for everything. And I hope I was able to share something with everybody. Again, I Tachi, Wuckchumni, and I learning Wuckchumni later on in life, and I give respect to my aunt for putting her heart into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen, for speaking about your language preservation and your culture preservation. We will be going next into some Q&As. Right now, we're going to go into Q&As from the fellows. I'll go first. My question to you is, like, what is your hope for the future for the your language preservation and your culture stories and basket weaving?
Main one is that it keeps going and it doesn't stop. I hope that it will find some sort of comfort in everybody else like it did at me at some point. And it's really important that the language doesn't go. And I just always remember Mom saying that once you learn it, no one can't take it away from you. You're in Yana, and even if you're not, whatever, I used to get shameful when I wouldn't get the words right. And she would look at me and she was, tells me what's wrong in the language. And I tell her, I can't get it like my brother. And she goes, just say it. Doesn't matter if it doesn't come out right, we'll fix it later. The main thing is that you need to talk and just and then we'll fix it later. And, and it is, I laugh now because my kids know that they were with me during my learning process, and there's a word that we say when they need to be quiet. And they know what it is. Tukwi, like we're talking, adults are talking, but I didn't finish it one day because I was trying to listen to the conversation, and I turned around and I told them, Tuk, totally different. Tuk is your ear. I'm telling them to Tuk, and they're like, what do you want us to do with our ear? And I'm all, you know what I mean? I mean Tukwi, but that it's those learning situations, and that's the same thing that I want to share, is that I want it to continue no matter whether we're wrong or right, because we're still going to have someone there to kind of get us back on the path and the way it is supposed to be. And don't give up. It's heavy on the shoulders when you're trying to get it right, but sometimes you just need to come out and say it, and then we'll get it as we go. And it means a lot. So whatever I instill in my children, or even the people that we come across, I hope they just keep on passing it, because that's just a legacy that came from either my grandfather's side, my mom's side, and I think that's it. It's just continuing the legacy, no matter how big or how small.
Eliana, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hello, Carmen. Sorry. Thank you for sharing your beautiful story. Also, thank you for raising Cecilia. She's so cool and so awesome. I can see where she gets it from. Um,
Thank
um,
you.
yeah, but my question would kind of be based. So a little context. I'm also from Tulare County. I'm from Farmersville. Was
Sure. You're right.
Yeah, close by. Um, yeah, so kind of hearing some of the stuff that, Cecilia kind of went through as a young person and not really seeing her culture really present in a predominantly like Hispanic, Latinx like environment, and someone that comes from the same environment. I am now an educator and work with students. I've worked with students across the Central Valley, and is like someone who I identify as like indigenous, but indigenous in the context of Mexico. So it's not this kind of the same experience as it is how you and like your family have.
Mhm.
But as someone that's trying to instill kind of these values of like it's important to know like how you got here and like what had to happen for you to be here, and kind of think about before of like the before 1492, like what was life like in this continent. So I really try to instill that into students. um
Mhm.
try and error, but what kind of advice would you give to people from the Central Valley trying to create like social change, not just for people that identify with you but others? Like what would be the best way for us to really like stand in solidarity, besides being like like you're on this land, but kind of like what after that, kind of, if that makes sense. Like what more can we be doing to really be like in solidarity to you and your history and to your ancestors?
So I'm pretty big about respecting the area that we go in. It doesn't, I mean, even for us traveling in like north, south, whatever, you have to recognize the area that you're going into, and you give them thanks, and you respect the ones that were from that area. And I like that you guys mentioned something about, the land acknowledgement. That is great. That's one way, educating people, but don't belittle them, and that can take you so much further. And I think I was in the same way. I grew up in a town that, it was mostly Hispanics, and I'm also part Hispanic. So it was always a struggle, because we were also farm laborers. That's, I didn't bring that up. And so I had to learn Spanish. My dad, he just, it was it was no ifs, ands, or buts. And I just remember just being in certain towns and seeing the difference. And I think the time that you guys are in right now, it's blown my mind, because it's like we're stepping back decades of all the hard work in each nationality that everybody has done. But I think by educating people and giving them also the acknowledgement that that they're people too, but also be aware of your surroundings. And I get it. Tulare County, we are, you know, we're farm laborers, and it's just a certain kind of area. And then if you go a certain part of Tulare County, it's a whole flip, and you have to stand your ground. You have to be representing who you are. Be true to yourself, and just acknowledge the area that you're in. And then that's a start right there. But also say that networking, go to events, provide information, no little, no how small, how big, any little bit is important. And I think that reaches out many. And I used to work in a clinic, and I was a health educator, and I worked in a farm labor clinic, migrant workers, and I never thought whatever I educated on, if anybody was listening to me. I had worked in there for like 18 years, and it made me really proud when I had someone come back to me and say, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I recognize the face, but what she explained to me is that she became a nurse. And she was just a few words that I had said to her at that time, that when she came in, and she just said that it was enough for her to go in the, be interested in something that we were talking about. And it made me feel good because I said, you never know who's listening. And that is, anyways, that's what I share is that educating people, providing information, resources, and, and I thank you for your hard work because it's not easy. I understand, but that would be my advice is just continue educating and communicating with people and let them know that we're still here. It doesn't matter if we're Native, Hispanic, that we're still here. And that saying actually is something really important in the language on my Wuckchumni side. That's what they say. The language is still here. We're still here, meaning we haven't gone. Maybe small, but we're still here. Yeah. But that's what I would advise or suggest.
Thank you so much, Carmen.
You're welcome.
Maria, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, okay. So, back when in the basket weaving process, you were talking about the materials and that how you guys would go on road trips and stuff. So I was wondering, like, what type of like materials do you get from like different locations? Because I remember you were talking about like it was like red root or white root. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I can explain about that. So, first, I didn't explain this part. Okay, so our relatives, our people, our tribes, we had access to bountiful, supplies and materials. So now we are facing different times. So one, a lot of us do not have access like we used to, private properties, and then now we're running into the issue of also pesticides, just like farm laborers, back in the day, we'd be working in the fields and they'll be spraying on top of us, but now it's also, we have to find the right area to go and gather and have permission. And not only that, when we gather, for example, like white root, it's usually found like in the wet area, lakes, rivers, creeks. So I'm lucky that my cousin and my aunt, we gather together. Also, redbud. Now you gather that in a separate time of the year. It's right after the first frost. You actually have to drive up to the mountains. We're at the foothills. We got to, go up, and we cut them, we split them, and we clean them. So even though I'm showing these beautiful baskets, there's a lot of work in going in it. One, you got to gather. Two, you got to clean, and you got to clean them right away because they dry, and water is so important because that's what makes everything work. Deer grass, before they'd be all up, side of the mountain, easy access. And I laugh now, and please forgive me, but I find humor in it because now we see it all over in these like parking lots, Target, Walmart, and I always joke with my girls, you need to get down and go gather me some white root, but deer grass, but there's certain areas too, like more like, close to the waters, and the materials is not only gathering it, you got to be careful how, things are clean. So this right here, this is called chukish, and this is deer grass. So that's what's actually that's actually what's in the middle here. Right here in the middle. Looks grassy, but they have like little stickers, so you have to clean it a certain way. And, we use modern tools now, but back in the day, they would have used leather to clean it. They would, have rocks, and they would have, it's running away from me, but the rocks and the clean and stuff. So, so when we gather, you only gather what you need. You don't gather more than that because that's not the way, that's being greedy, I guess, but that's not what we were taught. And you always do your offerings before you start in that area to pick and clean. So white root, you have to dig it, and it has blades on it too, so you have to be very careful, and you have to take your time digging a root, because how to explain it? The shorter, the harder, because you have to keep adding roots to make it go. You want the longer ones, so that means you have to really work at it, and kind of take your time at that in that dirt, and really, get it. And you can't be lighthearted. You're Mother Nature. You're with the bugs. You're with the whatever that's in there. And but it's once the basket is done, it's like a whole nother being. Yeah. But gathering it is a certain times of the year. You only take what you need, and unfortunately, we have very limited access to certain things, and you have to be aware in the certain areas you go in, because sometimes that is a certain tribe. It's the same way as like going into an area that is not belonging to you. So being respectful in that manner. But I was very thankful. I had 3 girls, because they helped me clean a lot of the material for me and my mom. And so we learned as we go. Hopefully that answered your question.
Gina, if you would like to ask a question, go ahead. Mirna or even Minerva, you guys are more than welcome.
Okay, it's actually a question from. Oh, that went away. I'm sorry, I butcher names. Stacia Romero.
Stacia Romero.
Oh, Stacia?
Stacia. I'm so sorry. But their question was, what season is best to start picking for your basket weaving materials? It kind of similar to my question, so yeah.
Yeah, I think I started typing. So white root is basically any time of the year. Red bud, that is always during the winter, the beginning of the winter after the first freeze. And when you clip them, you want to make sure you get the ones that look more bright, because the red buds, they kind of go like from a bright color to a darker color. Mom always told me go for the little bit brighter ones, because those are new shoots, and they're going to be easier to split and easier to clean. And actually, there's some people that have green thumb, and they could actually plant that, depending on where you live. And we live in Tulare County, so we have that weather of being really cold or really, really warm. I mean, we're one extreme, hot to cold. So I was fortunate with my mom that she actually got one, maybe two red buds sticks. It's growing at my home, and it is a big bush. So I'm fortunate that she kept that going, and it got really big. But I every year I have to trim it down, because it's basically like if you're, I don't know if anybody understands this, but like when you're pruning fruit trees, grapes or anything like that, you got to get rid of the old stuff so the new stuff can come up, and you get better canes, and it's the same. So I don't have a green thumb. I'm so embarrassed to say that, because my father, he used to sell at the flea market vegetables. He would sell the plants. My mom would sell flowers. I would kill them. But I don't know what happened, but my mom had white root, and she had it, she put it down in her ground, and she kind of really took care of it. And there's white root in Selma, but that ground is kind of sandy, so it's easier. It likes to grow where it's easier. And I got one little plant in a big old planter, and it's staying. So I'm kind of happy, but I don't mess with it too much because I don't want to kill it. But yeah, and then the deer grass, usually when it dries, when it's probably usually around spring, summer, you have to wait until it dries, and you're plucking them, so you're pulling them. So you got to be careful because they have like little stickers. But I noticed that when I basket weave, I used to always like to get the bigger, long, fat ones, but now I tend to go for the smaller, thinner ones because it's easier to turn in the coil of our basket. It's easier to work, better to work with. But again, if you pick it, you use it, you don't waste it. But hopefully I answered Stacia's question, and that's my niece, and I'm glad to see that she jumped on. And it's a pleasure seeing family and friends jump on. Thank you.
Hi, Carmen, we have a question from Leanne Hinton. Do you have any of your own baskets you could share with us?
You know what? I don't. I'm actually in Merced today. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, hold on. My baskets, I put them back in these Tupperware containers because I try not to get them messed up, so that way when I go to demonstrations. But I do have some of my coil style medallion. Because when we teach, we have sometimes very short time, and we're trying to educate the students, let them know what they're working with, how it's gathered, and everything I basically said right now. But then sometimes they want a finished product, and it's hard to explain to them that you have to understand that you can't finish a huge basket. That takes sometimes weeks, months, depending on what you have. But what I do teach is the coil style stitch medallion. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you this one. This one I made. It's a medallion. So here you got the deergrass, the red bud, and then right in the middle, oh, let me flip it, you can't see it. Right back here is the white root. So this is what this one's a lot bigger than what I normally teach. Usually we do teaching, making small medallions like this and with the stitch. But I made this for Cecilia when she graduated from school, because I felt it was like a completion of where we started to where we were. And so you see Merced colors. I did the best that I could, but this is the red bud, deergrass, and then right in the middle is the white root. And the stitching of coil, it being tight is so that way it can hold liquid, it could hold the gathering materials, because there's also much different more baskets. There's also gathering baskets, like if you're getting acorn, acorn was a staple food for us, so that, and then you in our area, what was mostly used was tule. As I referred, that there was a huge lake called the Tulare Lake. It was drained. Farmers, anyways, that's a whole nother story. But the thing is that there's a plenty of tule reeds, so it's kind of like roundish. This one's dried, but if it's stitched tight enough, close enough, and let me see if I can do it. Kind of like this. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, and you use it binding together, it makes like a canoe. So this could actually float on the water. And we've made like mini tule boats, because that's what's in our area. That's part of our origin plant in our area. But they also use that to make to understand that our tribe didn't have teepees. We had tule huts, and you used willow. You tied it, in the middle. You make a frame, and then you would wrap this around, and so this was the house, the bedding, the boat, the transportation. It was a multi-use plant, but yeah, but that is that's I've had baskets. I was in a hurry, but that's basically the stitch that I've done. And there's one little basket I wanted to bring tonight, but it's a small mini tray. So basically, this is like a gathering cedar. It's a smaller one, but mine was kind of like this, small but round. But what happened was is that I made it like a small mini tray. And why was because when my mother was sick, she stayed with me at the very end, and she had a bag that she would clean materials. And that materials, I pulled that material out and I made a little tray out of it because that was important to me. I didn't want it to all her hard work of cleaning it. So I made a mini tray of my mom's last cleaning of her materials. And that was important to me too, because that was actually me getting back into basketry again. Because I did my year, but I almost dragged into 2 years. And I think that was a part of my healing. So, but yes, that's coil stitch was really, the main style that mom would use. And that's how I learned. Cecilia, she did, the cradle is a whole different kind of materials. There's willow, there's different materials you use for different things. And so this would be like a little baby cradle. This is a mini one. And so again, it's different materials for different things. And actually there's certain pattern for a girl, a certain pattern for a boy. And then, I always remember always having one made for Christmas, and my mom would put a little doll in it. She would make small gifts like that. They meant a lot. But yeah, hopefully that kind of helped with the style. But my Tashtani, my cousin, they are all very creative, and I'm glad that she kind of taught all of us, and I'm grateful for that. Jennifer Malone, my Aunt Marie. Again, we come from a family of a big, great basket weaver, and her work is on the computer, it's in museums, and it's a blessing.
To answer Mitch's internet's going in and out, but her question for you, Mom, was how have you been continuing to teach your language and basket weaving underneath COVID? Can you describe your experience?
Okay, so it has been difficult because also the areas that we go in, that where we have permission, once our governor makes that, like you close, you can't. There was a big part of a time that we didn't have access to White Root, and that was hard. But there is certain areas that you can go to, but keeping your distance, you have to be mindful, and we have to also think of our elders, the ones that were around. So that's a big part. It has been hard. One of the things that I've had to learn was how to use Zoom, because that's what we had to, language class, it got shifted over to Zoom. Projects, we'll send you the materials and then we'll jump on Zoom and, we'll see how we can do it. It's difficult because usually you have that close interaction of teaching, but you're limited of what we can, how to access it and how to teach it. I'm a person, people, I like to be right there trying to show them, and but yeah, sometimes you have to use different items that you have to buy in the store. I'm not really familiar with those materials because I've only used like the regular materials. But the only word I could say is that you try to teach the any way you can, or however you can, and but it's I miss being together, being with Jennifer and everybody, because it's an inner circle. It's not only about basketry. You're sharing stories, culture, your language, that goes hand in hand. And if one element is missing, it's really hard. But you do the best that you can with the resources that you have. That's how you work it. Hopefully that kind of answered that a little bit.
Thank you so much for answering that question.
Thank you, Carmen, again. And then we have another question from Carly Tex. What can the public do to help basket weavers with finding access to the materials?
You know what? I really wish there was like some way that we can have like some way of like a certain area to say like, hey, this is the, not to say it's a free for all for everybody just to roam on someone's property, because you got to respect that too. But like if there was just a certain place to say like, hey, basket weavers, if you live in this area, because I'm sure it's not just us. I'm sure it's people up north, down south. If there was a certain, I'm really thankful for SEBA, but I think that might be something that we could add is like another like a resource list like for basket weavers. Like I said, I'm sure we're not the only ones struggling. Looking for access but also. Have to educate our basket weavers because we don't want them to get sick going in areas that is not safe. And I think about it now. I don't know how we survive working in the fields, because no matter what weather, whatever you work through, whatever weather to get your stuff done. But I think where would be a great place of support is our tribes. And I think a lot of them are looking into their cultural preservation, but I think that would probably be something is looking into our tribes. Like if they're working on preservation, that maybe they can also, reach out to the ones that are still teaching their traditional stuff, like help them find the resources. Not to say to answer their problem, but, just support them in that manner. It's hard when, how would I say this? You're limited in certain rights. And if you don't live in certain areas, sometimes you don't have certain accesses. So that would be good. I think that's probably somewhere that we should look into is our tribes. And what I mean by that is the ones that are federally recognized and they have their cultural department, history department. I think that might be somewhere where they should also have a look into like, who are our basket weavers in our area? How can we help them? Just like the language the elders, you gotta kind of be a resource to them, But like I said, not to fix the problem, but just to be like a support or a resource, like I think that might be something that would be helpful. Especially if you do not live on the reservation, you have to be really resourceful and I see that they're really, really trying to bring everything back and it's great. It's really great because it's not easy. And my hats are off to all of them that are trying to do the preservation, but also to support the ones that are out there that are I call it like traditional basket weavers, but that would be something like I think maybe support from the tribes or just a resource. I hope Carly might understand me. She knows their family's big basket weavers, and they understand the limited resources too. And advocate. I guess that's all we can do is from this side is advocate for the other new basket weavers so that they don't get discouraged. Because I think it's not easy, but it's also a skill that is beyond even a certificate or a diploma or a degree. It's something very personal. But I think that would be good. But SEBA's a good place, I think. But that's something that maybe we should look into, for us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. And we have another question from Aaron Marks. Are there any language nest or immersion classes for kids to learn the language there?
So I kind of So for us, we worked with ICLES, and they've been our support and resources. But you know, I think every group is starting to kind of like expand and look into different ways of immersion, language immersion, and I guess it'd be like you'd have to look into your area where you're at. I wish I had a better answer, but I know with ICLES, they've always been a very good support, and it was more oriented to like just adults, or the ones that worked as a team. And now I notice that there's more of approach to a family. But some of the places that I know is like in Visalia, it's Owens Valley, TANF, but I don't know. They offered language classes, and right now they're online. But they did a lot of family activities, which was great because I actually posted on my Facebook from last year that we attended a activity class making gourd rattles, and my son had so much fun. He was on Christmas break, and it makes me proud because he knows how to make it. He knows what it is, and he knows how to say it, in the language. And I think that's something that you might look in your area. But TANF, Owens Valley, I remember they would always invite us to activities, and if I wasn't working, I would take my son, whoever was going with me, and they would do different projects. And it always included the language and then the actual project. And I thought that was very neat. And it was good because it was a place to go, also, like I learned today, I have a family that live in the Bay Area, and it's just the networking that I spoke to Vincent Medina from ICLES, and he just gave me some resource information. He's like, if this is, and that's all what it is. It's networking and providing resources and asking. And that way I think about the youth a lot and try to find resources for them too. But yes, so hopefully, just looking into your area. But for us, I know that was a big part. ICLES was, you might want to look them up. But there's also events that we've worked with Jennifer Malone, and we did presentations at the national park, and but I would have to say, I have to look in your area to see what's available. But we're fortunate that we were to be able to teach at those events, but also be aware of what other events were going on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. And we have another question from Darlene Oliver. I think this is asking about before you start picking or gathering your materials, what do you use to make your offering, and why do you use it?
Oh, all right. Okay, good question, Darlene. So the two things that if possible, is our sage, blessing the area, and also offering our tobacco. Was blessing the ground where you're at, but you're also basically saying thank you for that, that you are able to gather the materials there. But not only that, it's just to put you in a better place before you start gathering, because that's where it all starts. That's where your basket's starting gathering. So you need to start off that way with your blessing of the ground and acknowledging, the Creator and Mother Earth and the ones that are providing for you, and that that you don't take it for granted, and you're giving your thanks to them. But not only that, you have to respect that part of that land that you're at. And after you gather, you need to put back the dirt. You need to try to, fix those grass to where they can grow more, and don't just leave it like it's trampled. Don't leave the roots open. They need to grow more. They need, so you take, but you also respect the land before you leave it. You don't just leave it like if someone just trampled through there. No, you have to give your blessings, and you also have to take care of that area you worked on before you leave, because you won't, that's just a form of respect. And don't leave your trash there. No bottles, no. That's not nice.
Thank you, Carmen. And then we have a question for Cecilia from Katie
Hi,
Aiko.
Chow.
Hi, Chow.
Aicho. Sorry. What are your plans or ideas for carrying on your family's culture?
Kind of like what my mom has said in the last hour, talking about my plans is to continue speaking first the language in the household and outside the household when we go on trips. Oh, sorry, my internet is bad. But to continue speaking it with my siblings is a first step, because I don't live in Orosi with my mother. I live in Merced with my two sisters. So first plan is to speak it within our little apartment area. And so we can keep it going. And then continuing learning how to basket weave for my Aunt Jennifer, or when we go to these SIBA conferences, learn from other people, or when we attend ICO's conferences, learning from different people who are coming up and down California, like Stan Rodriguez is a good guy from San Diego who has taught my family a lot of techniques and using games to get us motivated to go. So as long as I can have my crew family speaking with me, I'm going to do the same thing with my children once I start having my family. Like, that's my plan. Like, it's always been instilled since my mother. She's like, she wanted to teach me, and I want to teach my children, and so they can teach their children, no matter how little Indian blood we might have in this, because it goes out. Like, I wanted to be instilled in them that we have a language and we have culture, we have stories, we have techniques of basket weaving because we're women. That this is something that my plan is to keep teaching them, teaching the younger generations, and including my cousins. My like Katie Aichel has my aunt. She's the one that asked questions. She has a daughter, Sienna, and like hopefully as this whole thing COVID ends and like her son Hunter, we can get together again and start doing language games and outside in the front of the house and like teaching Sienna how to weave because she's getting at that age already. So it'd be nice to like with my siblings and my family and extend to anyone. I've always been like, if anyone's willing to learn, I'm willing to teach. So that's a plan of myself to continually carrying on my family's culture to everyone.
Thank you, Cecilia, for sure. Oh, yes.
Something I wanted to share is every basket weaver is different. I just, when she was talking, I was thinking about it, is that there's certain basket weavers that only teach certain people, and that's respectful for their decision of who they teach or how they teach. Majority of it was aimed to mostly to teach women to basket weave. That's the way the thought was. Back in the day, it was just only women, and the men did their responsibility. My mom taught us that helped teach. You teach whoever that comes and sits at that table, because they're asking to be taught. And so it's not so much of the tribe preference, it was a family preference for us. So we taught anybody that would sit down at our table. So that's something that I needed to bring up, because either up north, down south, everybody has a different way. But that was something that was important that I should have added and included is more of the preference of the teacher. But for our family, we went off of based on the decision of my mother, and then she basically said, you teach whoever sits down right there. They're asking to learn, you teach whoever, it doesn't matter, woman, man, kid, whoever sits there. So that's just something I wanted to share with everybody.
Thank you, Carmen. We have about 5 minutes if anyone has any last questions or comments.
Can I make a quick statement?
Yes.
I wanted to recognize a lot of the people in our area that are working very hard to preserve the language. It makes me happy, and what I mean by that is that it's something that's important because it's a part of our heritage and it's a part of our blood and it's a part of who we are. But I just want to say thank you for the ones that are taking the time to learn the language and learning our culture, because it is very humbling knowing that people want to learn the language, and it's not easy because everybody's got their lives, schools, jobs, and but at the same time, it brings them back full circle when they come back. So I just want to say thank you to all the ones that are providing support for the people that are learning the language, teaching trainings, and actually our family and friends that I see them doing their thing. The circle got big. It was a small circle, and we have this big old circle of family. Even though they're friends, I consider them family now. All the way, Santa Ynez, just all the way down south. My kids, they had to grow up with adults as their best friends when we would go to trainings, and I laughed because that was their buddies, and but I just want to say thank you for everyone that's supporting in one way or another, or learning the language, and don't give up, keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. This next question is an invite from Yasmin Lafara. She's wondering if your contact and Cecilia's contact information is available because she works for an organization in the Central Valley working to recognize native lands and culture, and they would love to have you host you virtually if possible. I think this says we resettled refugees and believe it's extremely important to recognize the native lands these refugees are being resettled into.
I answered your question through the chat, so we're good on that one. But like anyone's, if you guys ever need to contact me or my mother, we're always welcome, like you said, to help out anybody.
It's always been that way. We're open to whoever we're called to, but that's just something that we don't mind. We like doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll be wrapping up the webinar with either Maria or Cecilia.
So I hope everyone enjoyed the time spent here, and thank you everyone for joining and sharing your time with us. Special thanks to Carmen for sharing your culture and your family stories. I really like the stories about your mom because I think mostly everyone has that like motherly figure like her. And me, I lost my Thea, but she's exactly like your mom, so it kind of reminded me of that. Continuing. And thank you for Khalik, sorry, I'm bad with names, for being our tech support and making sure everything is running smoothly. And thank you for the PBI team and the fellows and everyone who asked questions. I truly hope everyone enjoyed today's event and will reflect on this in the future. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed the rest of your day, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining on. Everyone who's also in the chat, everyone who's joined on, thank you so much. It's very much appreciated that anyone could join on.
Thank y'all. Have a good night. Stay safe.
Thank
Bye,
you
everyone.